Um, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Sean Michael Morris, the Acting Head of Pedagogy at GPTZero and facilitator for today's office hours. This hour is the second in a two-part Back to School series that aims to give educators a head start on a year that will be inundated with discussions about AI and new AI tools. As the race to create better and better LLMs heats up, teachers need every advantage. GPTZero began hosting webinars this past spring in order to build awareness and skills amongst teachers about the responsible use of AI at all levels of teaching and learning. In keeping with the company's mission of preserving what's human in education, the focus here is on your work in your classroom. During today's office hours, we'll be spending some time with the founder of GPTZero, Edward Tian. From the moment Edward conceived of and designed the original GPTZero app over the course of 3 days while still a student at Princeton, Edward has worked tirelessly and, from my experience with him, hopefully, to create a tool that provides teachers and students with a new way to consider the role of AI in writing and education. Today, Ed will be sharing out a few new features available and in development at GPTZero. And before we wrap up, I'm going to share a little bit of information about the ambassador program that GPTZero has started for its educators who want to use AI responsibly. Now, as we get started, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and to use that space to connect with each other. If you have questions for Edward, please use the Q&A function in Zoom to post them. There are a lot of folks in attendance today, so the Q&A function is probably the best way for us to keep questions organized and to answer as many as possible. And one more note, the recording of this session will be shared by email in the next few days, so keep an eye out for that email coming soon. And now, without further ado, please welcome Edward Tian to the stage. Thank you, Edward, for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sean, as well too. And it's always great to, the 6-part series that you hosted over the summer was so loved and hopeful, and we've just got so much great feedback throughout. And I even remember like emails people were sending you that were saying this was the best kind of like sessions throughout that journey. So we were very excited to do it again during the back to school moment as well too, and seeing a lot of folks from everywhere in the chat as well. I'm based in New York, but commonly commute to DC, elsewhere in the country, and actually headed to interestingly, so Gabrielle from Argentina, I'm headed to Argentina for a journalism conference in October, which will be really cool. So all that being said, have a really really interesting session for folks as well too. That's more of a mix between a workshop and things that are happening in the AI space. And I'll definitely be pausing to get feedback, questions throughout, because we really do enjoy, getting feedback on kind of our journey from teachers. So here's a little bit of the presentation had ready for folks and a little bit of the agenda for today. Going to start with some background in terms of GPTZero, our development as well too, and maybe philosophies for the future. Then for the fun part, and always the fun part, in my opinion, when doing these session workshops, we'll get to show you some cool stuff of like what's happening in the AI space. The first demo, going to be showing you some things on finding AI bibliographies, how they're appearing in the classroom and tools there. And then the second and third demo are even more exciting because we actually haven't shown this to anybody in any teacher's live. So I'm going to keep that a little bit of a mystery when we get there. And lastly, we'll love to get feedback and talk about how we could, work closely and with a lot of teachers throughout our journey. Great. A little bit of a background. So as Sean mentioned, I started developing GPTZero with a team out of the Princeton NLP lab. Previous to that, I studied journalism and CS in college and then worked a year as a journalist at the BBC. And I would say two things kind of jump to mind. A lot of the initial motivations of GPTZero came from detecting misinformation in a journalism space because when ChatGPT was first launched in 2022, we were doing a lot of research on monitoring fake news, disinformation, content on the internet. And we just saw that explode in terms of the amount of disinformation, what we call journalism, after the advent of AI. And I would say there was a real worry about kind of quality of content in the world as well too. Is there purposeful, thoughtful content put out, or is it going to be an internet filled with kind of slug and just churned out text? So that was the initial motivation, and we kind of this was a photo of the GPTZero early days I took kind of January of 2023 with who was then the Director General of the BBC, Mark Thompson, who kind of pushed us to start a project and build this beyond what kind of GPT-Zero initially was in our early team. And the photo on the left was actually me and my own writing professor. Actually, this was really a coincidence. Yesterday, I did a webinar for the Princeton journalism department and students there because it was also kind of we still get a lot of great insights in how writing is being taught in different classrooms there. And this is a photo of me and my creative writing professor, John, who came to kind of this thesis presentation of GPT-Zero. And I took that class when I was 22 and he's 92. And he's 95 now. He's still going to be visiting him in a couple months down in New Jersey. But the last time we visited him, we were also kind of similar to this moment, demoing a lot of kind of the AI tools we've been putting out. And it's fascinating how, even after teaching writing for over 45 years, at age 95, he was still so curious about what AI and what AI tools are coming out and what they could do. And I always, am fascinated. So he's not a fan of kind of AI and doesn't ever believe AI will be able to replace the quality of human writing and the intentionality. And he always asks, like, what can AI do? What can't? Every time I chat with him, like, can AI try to write in my voice? And we like tested out with ChatGPT there, and we were like, oh, this wasn't actually really good here, and it's really fun. And I think there's always that moment where he asks, like, does AI tools today tell you something is so good, you should keep it, you shouldn't change a word. And I always say that actually ChatGPT is more about generating more things. It doesn't tell you the good parts of the human writing or even the best parts of what's being, generated as well. And he was always saying that's the real job of a good editor. And that's the real reason of we have to continue teaching. Students how to learn to write, learn to think, and always a motivator. So that's a little bit of the background. We'll tie in some of the product philosophies. The other thing so sorry, this slide I put in today, so wasn't ready for, but a fun fact, GPT-Zero was mentioned in the New York Times morning newsletter this week as well too, is one of the AI tools that they use in this arm race of AI detection as well. But it's so interesting that it's not just in schools, but it's also how journalists look at the real world. And just this week, we signed a partnership with the Associated Press to have both our AI detection tools, but also citation check tools that we're right about to demo and show you to the AP Verified dashboard for thousands of journalists. And it's really interesting how kind of the thinking of how AI is being used will evolve from the classroom to the real world beyond. Some examples I'd like to share as well too is we've been partnering with Wikipedia, and also this was a Wired newsletter on on AI used across the internet, and it is, as you would guess, rising significantly. In Around 2 months ago, and this was kind of a fascinating partnership we did with actually journalists at the New York Times and Wall Street Journal both reached out about a Make America Healthy Again report. And this was a report by kind of a government agency that actually was clearly AI generated, but wasn't just AI generated. The citations were being AI generated, and it was leading to reports, papers that were completely fake. And you can actually read, there's some good articles on the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times about this Make America Healthy Again report too. But the most comprehensive version of every every kind of claim and their factuality and their citation credibility is actually a GPT-Zero article that we shared with the Wall Street Journal and New York Times journalists that informed their reporting. And we called it Make America Hallucinate Again, related to kind of these potential hallucinations that AI generates. What's also interesting is a lot of people think the problem of these fake citations or hallucinations will be solved as AI tools get better because now they're being hooked to the internet, whether it's ChatGPT kind of search or Perplexity, another AI search tool. But we actually found that's not going to be the case because in an internet that's filled with AI generation, you can pull links, but these links will be AI generated, and you get these secondhand hallucinations or problems or false citations that are passed on, even if the AI has internet access. And this was a report we actually did in collaboration with the Forbes outlet on looking at Perplexity, where every 3 or 4 citations that it pulls through an internet search to inform its AI generation, there'll be one that's likely to be AI generated itself. So it's all to be said is as these AI tools get better, and they are going to be, and they're going to be hooked to the internet, it's not going to solve the problem of fake bibliographies or hallucinated AI content because what they're pulling is increasingly an internet of AI content. So that leads us to the first demo of a tool. And I'll pause after to get feedback, thoughts, and comments. I'm actually going to share my screen here. So this is a demo of how we basically built out the Make America Hallucinate Again report. Um, hmm. And I would say we have a new citation checker tool on GPTZero that was kind of launched as motivation here. But aside from kind of these like reports or high level needs, I'll share a little bit about what we've been hearing from teachers. I would say throughout the summer and kind of last semester, we heard a huge kind of like conversation from teachers where it's not just about the AI content, but a lot of teachers were and writing instructors were getting AI bibliographies. And what they were finding is like the AI content was in the focus, but these bibliographies, you'll click links and these links just don't exist. And as an instructor, we heard over and over again, I don't have the time to check every one of my students' links. And we thought this was clearly a problem, but one that we could solve at GPT-Zero. So with our check citations feature, I'm just gonna get there as well too. It looks through AI generated sources. And the other thing I'll show is we actually, yeah, so I'll have citations that are quality, green, low quality, and yellow as well too, and show why the sources match or do not match. I'll verify every piece of citation in a text and then match it with the text. And I think I'll mark problems in red and yellow. Red being source was not found or doesn't exist because this is actually a completely hallucinated source. And then yellow as in things like the source exists but doesn't match the actual text. So, for example, you'll have essays from students about ancient, like Egyptian history, but the sources will be about the Ottoman Empire and kind of totally a mismatch. And yeah, lastly, if the text even references the article. And then this information accuracy component is what is a fact checker, but a little bit different. Instead of fact checking a claim, we decided that it's more informative to be able to say whether a claim comes from a lot of credible sources or do not have credible sources that support it. So this section was kind of built by our team or machine learning engineers with that in mind. And we actually recently put it into a Chrome extension where now you can run the fact checker directly and the citation checker via our Chrome extension on kind of Google Docs as well. Yeah, that's the first demo. I'm going to pause there for some questions before going to a second or third parts of the demo. Um, yeah, and in terms of speed run, we are speeding it up too significantly, especially if you use it on the Chrome extension for people to get all those sources throughout. Mhm. All right. Um, yeah, Sean, let me know if there's any questions that jump up to mind. And yeah, that's kind of the first one of the demos.
Sure thing. Yeah, there's a question actually from Mikhail in the chat. Does GPT-0 cross-check? Oh, sorry. There are many repositories of academic literature. Does GPT-0 cross-check them to arrive at the conclusion that a citation is hallucinated? It may simply be miscited. So how do you address that?
Yeah, great question as well too. So if within our actual citation determination, it doesn't have a tag for it's hallucinated or it's not hallucinated. So in terms of it'll flag as yellow content that exists, but likely to be kind of the wrong citation. So that would be a problem in itself if a student linked the citation um, even without AI generating that bibliography. But that's kind of the yellow part too. It does exist. And then with the red kind of marks, those are very likely to be hallucinated because those articles just don't exist at all. And a student isn't linking articles that don't exist. They might link articles that are totally off the mark. So that's when you really get the sign that this was an AI hallucinated citation. And overall, with the bibliography, you can look at in bulk. Um, and some folks are also asking about there was a question I just saw about kind of the legality of use as well too. So what we've always recommend throughout the last semester and this semester is there's multiple features about GPT-Zero and studies that make it better in terms of accuracy than with both the plagiarism checking and the AI detection checking than Turnitin or comparative tools. However, what we found the most effective usage of teachers in using GPT-Zero in the classroom is more of a holistic or kind of a Swiss Army knife approach. Instead of just looking at AI detection or quality of text, that's one signal, but should be layered with if you're looking at a bibliography, that every citation and every source of the bibliography is false. That's another signal with the citation check tool. And with what I'll be about to demo with the writing replay tools, that's another signal. In terms of outside of kind of education legality, there was actually a really interesting case last week where GPT-Zero was used in a legal document where a government agency actually used AI generated outputs when they weren't supposed to. That was very fascinating. But within education, we've both seen kind of the tool itself have better accuracy, but more interpretability in terms of features. GPT-Zero has added that some other tools do not in terms of why something was AI generated, what vocabulary AI generated was used, what specific sentences, but also if you look at citations and if you look at more of a holistic writing replay approach that show. Pause here first now. Awesome. Um, yeah, if there's any questions about the citation tool, please feel free to continue asking throughout the chat. And by the end of the next demo, I'll pause again so Sean can pick out any questions. But what was a kind of a good shift is I'm going to be demoing some things in terms of this holistic approach for AI usage. The other thing I would kind of really emphasize as we go into the next semester is maybe a big takeaway of this first demo and portion is the fact that, we talk about a lot of AI literacy, but AI literacy is essentially media literacy for two reasons. One is a lot of these AI tools themselves have been built on top of news agencies, on top of scraping the internet. There's, a previous lawsuit of the New York Times against OpenAI that said, hey, these AI tools just took the content and used them and trained the AI models without proper attribution. So we think of attribution of sources, I think it continues to be important to teach students about the origins of AI tools and that there's a plagiarism problem with the AI tools themselves, even as they use it. In addition, as we see in terms of how AI is linking sources, hallucinating sources, this continues to be an important conversation, especially if students do use AI tools in classrooms for research classes. And we would heavily encourage for the bibliographies, yeah, instructors to use these AI citation checking and fact checking and bibliography checking, as well as plagiarism checking tools, but students to look into it themselves because they can't just depend on the AI outputs anymore. They should put it into a third-party tool in terms of looking at the sources and the credibility of sources themselves. Um, okay, yeah. Going to the second portion of this demo, and I think this is going to be really exciting as well too. Um, This is actually an internal GPTZero document of some product development I'll be showing you as we later on in the demo as we kind of show the third part. But we have a Chrome extension that kind of relaunch this summer. And yeah, it's exciting for a couple of reasons. One, it takes some of the core tools within the Chrome extension, like AI scans, feedback for writing. So give me some feedback related to the start of the document and writing clarity. And this was a tool from instructors that they might use to provide feedback in writing. And some of our writing feedback tools also linked into the Chrome extension. The fact checking tool also linked directly into the Chrome extension. Um, but what I'm gonna show kind of most excited about to show is actually a video replay of the entire writing process. This one is taking a little bit longer because this document is insanely long at 33 pages. Um, apologize to that. I might find another document that's more of like a one-page generation, and you'll get to see some of the generation tools. But I'll show that again in a second. What I will show now is so this holistic approach we use really recommends using the AI detection for submissions on learning management systems, whether it's GPT-Zero's integration in Canvas or Google Classroom or other tools. And it also really recommends looking at the citations of how students use and how kind of signals of comparison of their current writing to previous writing. This particular tool in this holistic approach looks at typing patterns as well and a whole replay. So if you click on this replay button that appears on every Google Docs once you download the GPT-Zero Chrome extension, you can fast forward and see exactly how a document is being built. And you can also generate two kind of moments of like copy and paste throughout as well too, and analyze kind of AI scans there. And what I also find really fun and useful is for group projects. Obviously, a lot of instructors here are in higher ed, but K-12 is full of group projects. You could actually see independently what students contributed what and what percentage of a document as well too between the different writers that have built out kind of this document. So it's actually looking into the pedagogy of how something, the actual writing process of how something is being built out slowly. And we're really interested as kind of this tool as a place to bridge the gap because as oh no, GPT-Zero was never about no AI. It was built as a place or a vehicle to start adopting AI responsibly. And one thing we could see is this really helps teachers take it at their own pace. For teachers that are not having any AI in the classroom, that's a policy that they want to teach. But for teachers that are excited about adopting AI or curious about experimenting moments of AI, this will also show how AI is being used, whether it's copy and paste or in AI tools, kind of like one of the characters can be the AI model or ChatGPT itself. You can click through and really is a way to facilitate with students how much they're depending on AI use. So we're really excited about that one in terms of the replay. That's also kind of free and available and just something we were really excited to build this summer and launch more widely. My teachers. Yes, so Jessica, that's a great question. This does only work. I'm going to pause here for a second too and kind of go through. That does work only with documents were created with Google Docs. Fortunately, we're looking at building this in terms of Word and other features. Um, what we also found is in terms of, yeah, our replay with Google Docs is more collaborative. So a lot of group projects, we were able to engineer how to see different contributions, different students copy and paste during that moment, and different students' usage of AI or not AI too. So we're still looking at other tools. It is true that even today, Google Docs is still the most widely used editor, and at least in higher ed, in most recent 2021 survey, 90% of students preferred Google Docs over Word. So, which was not the case 5 years ago. I think even 5 years ago it was more split. And also, I would add that this was such a surprising fact to me, but recently I found out Google Docs still has more, not unique individuals, but visits per day than ChatGPT. It's somewhere around kind of like a 1.5 to like 1.3 billion marks. But in terms of unique visits, that was kind of shocking to me. Even today, Google Docs still outnumbers ChatGPT. Um, but yes, I'm gonna pause there too. Yeah, Sean, maybe I'll pass it to you to see if any questions really jump, and
Sure.
also happy to scroll
Yeah,
through.
I think one of the major questions that seems to be coming up for folks is sort of what is accessibility on GPT-Zero like in terms of the subscription? Is it something that institutions purchase, faculty purchase? Is there a free version, and what's available versus free versus subscribed?
Yeah, that's a really great question as well too. So kind of gonna go over this with all of these tools. Um, so with GPT-Zero, our philosophy actually was to just really get tools into the hands of teachers at the start of AI, where it kind of the balance was really one way. And that philosophy has continued kind of throughout the development as well. Obviously, we're now as more of a thought leader in the space, we want to make sure also educators are best equipped to use all of our tools to kind of a responsible and thoughtful extent. So hence the webinar certificate program over the summer. That was a 6-part series with different facilitators and trainers that ended in kind of that certificate of completion that graduate teachers as responsible users of GPT-Zero. And similar, I believe, kind of after this 2-part series, we'll be sending a certificate of completion as well. So the bibliography check and AI detection check tools are available directly on our website. The advanced kind of scanning tools and interpretability require a subscription, kind of this monthly subscription, and this helps you interpret the results, get unlimited access to bibliography, fact checks, advanced AI detection checks, plagiarism checks throughout. We will go to schools on kind of provisioning. That's more for administrators if also they want understanding of how AI is used across different departments in learning management systems. So that would be more administrators before classrooms directly. Teachers themselves can just use the tools, and a lot of them will just like um, yeah, reimburse it across departments, whether it's, for example, kind of like 10, 20 seats, Rutgers business schools, or a larger like Catholic district as well too. So that kind of varies across, but it's very directly accessible. And what I would also kind of emphasize is at the end of this, there's going to be an opportunity Sean will give to kind of the 80 folks in this particular session to get GPT-Zero for free for a lifetime by, yeah, joining kind of this, our ambassador program, but we don't view it as kind of like ambassador because you have to promote our tools, but more of educating folks in your community and giving them an opportunity to get GPT-Zero for a year as well, and all the premium features and unlimited usage. And then I would say that Chrome extension, those replay features are free for anybody, unlimited forever. And some of kind of the fact checking feedback features also required this paid plan that's now going to be available to folks. The other thing I was gonna demo is a lot of them are available for one use, but with kind of this paid plan, it gives unlimited usage. Although this writing report is always accessible to anybody, whether actually not only teachers, but students, in terms of having them understand better how pieces are being built or collaborating across projects as well too. And then here was the comment tool I was proposing on a shorter document. This document is only 2 pages. Apologies, that 33-page document was a little bit longer to generate, but it also helps give comments, and you can comment it directly. And this is kind of a extra feedback tool that could be used, whether it's students during their writing process or teachers themselves to give feedback. So that's all within the Chrome extension. And we basically link the Chrome extension to the dashboard account such that if you're running an AI scan, all of this can be saved in terms of your actual GPT-Zero account or dashboard as well. Yeah, gonna pause there. No, that was a lot, but hopefully fun stuff too.
There is you want more questions? Do you want
Um,
do you want more questions, or you want to move on?
Yeah, great. That itself is a great question, John. Maybe one more, and then I'm gonna make sure we have time for kind of a very, very cool thought.
Okay, cool. So one question that does keep coming up is whether or not GPT-Zero works with any other languages, specifically Latin American languages.
Yeah, it does as well too. So Latin American language, Spanish in itself is actually a huge focus for our AI team as well too. And we've been able to get accuracies on Spanish detection to the similar rates of English detection. We also now have a team member specifically focused for international languages. So yes, you'll be able to see which ones are fully supported versus partially supported. Fully supported means we have team members that are collecting data, analyzing, benchmarking, and making sure it's the same accuracy as all English languages. And partially supported, meaning AI detection works for those languages. However, we're not having the full benchmark and support as well. And then, yeah, so we'll continue to make sure our tools can be internationalized and accessible across languages.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Good. Okay, I'm gonna do a really, really fun one. Um, so actually, just to go back to the presentation for a second, to gonna kind of reflect a little bit on the journey of AI in education throughout the past year as well too. Kind of sparks with a lot of like AI or not AI. And then I think it's evolved into a lot of teachers understanding that it's not just about AI or not AI, it's about how students are using AI in the classroom. A lot of submissions are not fully AI generated essays, partially AI generated essays in parts. Can we pinpoint them? It's really about how and where students are using AI, and kind of that nuance has gradually evolved in the classroom. And also that also evolves kind of the teacher side into a more of a holistic method of understanding and using different signals rather than kind of the traditional plagiarism or turn and checker and AI or not AI. And I think that's where really GPT-Zero differentiates itself and starts to shine. What we've really noticed as kind of a philosophy of how our company evolves as we started with this mission of preserving what's human on the internet. But in 2025, we've updated our mission as a company to preserving critical thinking on the internet. And some folks might have seen this summer, there were research papers coming out that showed that ChatGPT wasn't just bad for learning and pedagogy, but there was an MIT study of how showed folks constantly using ChatGPT was actually also bad for cognitive health and the future health of your brain. And this kind of was just, wow, really, really took our team for a moment as well. And we really just wanted to think through this is not only learning outcomes, but kind of the future, just like health and cognitive thinking is at risk with constant using of AI thoughtlessly rather than thoughtfully. And what was also kind of really apparent to folks in education is I think everyone here will just realize that every year students are just so different in how they're using AI, whether it's kind of the first year of AI being launched, the second, the third, and now kind of yeah, as you get younger, students are just different in how they're using AI. And I'm sure, and folks might be could comment in the chat your experiences there. But through our team talking to teachers, and a lot of our team was actually at a high school yesterday too, just talking to English teachers, instructors, history teachers, science teachers throughout. Even yesterday, and folks were saying, "Wow, like." The middle school students and the high school students are even using AI so differently. It worries us because now you can have kind of youth using ChatGPT before they even know how to write. Like think about it like a 3-year-old talking to ChatGPT voice mode before you can even like formulate a sentence or read, not just write. And that's really scary for kind of the future without thinking about how to use AI thoughtfully. So what kind of our team has been motivated by is this idea of writing is one of the vanguards of critical thinking. That this we actually see this divide of it's no before ChatGPT, it was kind of a spectrum of folks that can write and can't write, and a lot of people in the middle in terms of their skill set. But now it's becoming a divide in terms of writers and write nots, of people that have the skill or don't have the skill. And there's kind of analogies in history too to I would say kind of like industrialization previous to that, most folks in their work were very strong because that was part of the job. But now there's folks that, work out or choose to work out and folks that don't in terms of the strength. But what I would say is the skill of being able to write or not write is a lot higher stakes than that. Not only in terms of cognitive health, but critical thinking, it's elements there, but it's also directly correlated to people that can think or can't think for themselves. Because increasingly we're realizing generations that just constantly use ChatGPT are no longer thinking for themselves. And how can we build a space where we're allowing AI adoption that is coming, but still training folks and students thinking for themselves, even when using AI tools. And that was kind of the motivation of this next demo that I'm going to show 80 folks in this room that we have not demoed before. Unlike the previous two tools that are already immediately accessible if you download the Chrome extension right now, this tool is not out. At the end of September, we are going to launch it and put it into our Chrome extension. So um, thought process is this is a tool for not teachers that are at the moment of no AI in their classroom. This is one for teachers that are, wow, I'm like curious and starting to see where AI could fit, knowing our students want to use it. However, is there a way to adopt it better than ChatGPT study mode, or are there better alternatives? Because not even ChatGPT, but even these study mode elements, we've heard from teachers that you can still get around it with just like multiple prompting, and it's still not, it's more of like a panacea rather than a real solution in terms of promoting thinking in that writing process. So, okay, I'm gonna go to yeah, a new document as well too, and I'll ask for writing goals. So I'm gonna start with this one. So, this is a tool for students and teachers, as in teachers to share to the classroom, and students to use. And by the end of September, it'll be accessible for anybody that downloads the Chrome extension, and you'll have a little question box that will appear. And let's say write an article about, about why thinking, writing is so important for learning to think critically. Okay, gonna do this live the first time. Knock on wood. Mm. Okay, so um, the writer is recommended a draft outline as well too, with introduction, defining critical thinking, reflection, arguments, conclusion as well too. But I think this is an opportunity to change this outline. Mhm. Writing reflection. Um, and as I continue on this demo, the last thing I will share is um, yeah, we still have 2 weeks before this will be like really like look super pretty, get out of the flows, launch fully. So between those 2 weeks, any feedback that folks give today, or maybe folks that are interested in that master program can try it even before kind of the main launch and give feedback or email Sean or I, asynchronously. We'll incorporate. So start thinking. And what's kind of the goal of this is in we're gonna gamify the writing process, especially for students, to encourage them to think more. Right now, the UI is just pretty basic, but you'll see actually more of like a gamified kind of video game-esque characters for students, almost like Duolingo, as they're like getting points while they think more throughout this process. And before you write, you have to think. So you kind of go into these thinking quests as well too. You have to research and evaluate the arguments. So the editing process is a huge part of writing and encourages the student to understand, just student, a writer to understand what is good versus what is not good, rather than blankly accepting AI outcome. Okay, yeah, complete quests as well too. Sometimes they'll be linked in this quest UI when it comes out, but finishing one will link a sister quest that is kind of like our model of like a continued quest. So this one you'll notice I mentioned editing, and there'll be like a continued quest about the editing process. Editing process is critical because any good piece of writing goes through multiple drafts. If you can't edit, if we have a world, we have a world of students that can't edit, and we proceed to produce any writing better than AI in the world, everything will sound robotically the same. Hey, well, what you'll also notice is that I recall a time when writing helped you think more clearly. Different people have different writing processes. Certain processes. Um, I like writing to bring my thoughts out. That's and seeing it on a page helps me organize my thinking. Cool. Um, you'll also have an AI component here too that can brainstorm ideas for this quest and edit. But what we'll notice is we're intentionally using this tool on Google Docs first, because in the future we have that replay process. Sorry, there's no typing analysis available because there's been no writing. Because in addition to seeing the writing process, we can map out the thinking process in the document now. And moments of AI use also, facilitated in that process. So, okay, after you kind of finish quests, a couple quests, and that in the gamified UI, there's going to be like a success like a Duolingo S outline to encourage students, and you get a full writing outline built from your thinking before you even start writing. Mhm. Kind of the introduction, critical thinking, reflection, clarifying arguments, evaluating evidence, conclusion, and then you can edit it as well to change the ordering of anything before accepting. And then now what's very cool here is we'll have kind of this roadmap of things to work on as well too. But let's say I'll start with an introduction. You can go back to the outline if needed. Um, let's say I want to focus on writing as a reflection as well too. Writing is an important part of reflecting on someone's own process. Mhm. um, what's we're kind of building, which is super interesting because I think been nothing like this, is an opportunity to use AI as more of a guide as part of your process rather than the start or just the end. So as you write, you'll notice there's some live feedback going on, which in our main UI, you'll be able to pause or change as well too. And this is where, we're happy to get feedback or folks that are willing to test this out themselves by we'll send you kind of this Chrome extension before it launches because we can make this more Socratic in terms of provoking questions. We can make it for students more of like, here's how you would do it, or examples of how folks are right. And it's really interesting because now you can get some live feedback for these specific sections as you write. So the AI is more of a companion rather than the start or just the end. Okay, yeah, pause. I'm gonna pause there. That was the demo of my coaching product. Mhm.
That's great. And I think there's a lot of people excited about that product. A couple of questions in the Q&A. Will the quest be available for subjects other than language production? Yeah,
Yeah, that's so interesting as well too. So yes, we're making these quests as well to work as well as for across subjects, whether it's humanities or even science, writing a research paper or an academic thesis. There'll be kind of provoking questions related to just like extending your thinking, or having a place for brain dump. And honestly, in my opinion, not only is this more pedagogical, for students, this will make a better outcome because just having AI write everything in one draft does not create the best writing outcome. Rather, being able to think first and then write yourself with AI, maybe as part of the process, maybe more focus in this case, in this tool, on the outline process and being a companion of your thinking as well, and making sure that there's a thinking piece. So it'll work across um, kind of the different subjects.
that's great. And another question also from Brian, who's one of the ambassadors actually. Can I train the quest for students to give limits to what help is given? So were you able to actually train the AI to say, I only want them to get this much help?
Yeah, that's such a cool concept as well too. So yeah, we are working towards that as a roadmap for the ability for teachers to customize what this AI assistant could do for students. We'll see it, how we're imagining it being implemented is a place at the start that a student could also put in a classroom code similar to like a Kahoot-esque. And then suddenly the AI model is shifted to what that teacher specified with their classroom code. So the first version we're going to be launching does not have that customization ability. It'll just be available on the Chrome extension, Chrome Store, on Google Docs, and for teachers and students to use. But as we build kind of that customizability, we're curious if folks have other ways they'd imagine it aside from this code element that the team is really excited about.
Yeah. Um, Great. Awesome. Fantastic. There are a few other questions, but I actually want to take just a second. I think there's a lot of people interested in the ambassador program. So we've got about 9 minutes left. I think this might be a good time to chat about the ambassador program. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna jump in if that's all good. Um,
that'd be
and
great, Sean. I'll just and therewith, we're so excited to whether this program or just getting feedbacks on products or things like today as well. We're so excited to work and get feedback from teachers during the process and be involved throughout. So, yeah, excited to pass it to China.
Great. Awesome. All right. I'm going to quickly share my screen. So make sure everyone can see that. So GPT-Zero, let me get to the beginning of my script here. GPT-Zero recognizes that as we navigate this new landscape of artificial intelligence in our classrooms, as so many of you have already commented in the chat, we need passionate educators who can guide their colleagues through thoughtful, practical approaches to AI integration. That's exactly what this ambassador program is designed to do. So what does it mean to be a GPT-Zero ambassador? Simply put, you become a champion for responsible AI adoption in your educational community. So this is educator to educator. You'll host webinars and workshops for fellow educators. You'll share best practices for navigating AI in the classroom. And here's kind of how it works. As an ambassador, you'll reach out to educators in your school, your district, or your local community to invite them to sessions that you will facilitate. The beauty of this program is that GPT-Zero makes it incredibly easy and rewarding for everyone involved. Every educator who attends your workshop receives a full semester of GPT-Zero Premium absolutely free. And they provide and GPT-Zero, the team there, provides everything you need to lead a successful workshop. So the pressure is really sort of off of you. And you don't also have to worry about like tracking attendance or managing any of the benefits that come from GPT-Zero. They'll handle all of that on their end, so you can focus on what you do best, which is educating and inspiring your colleagues, as you already have been doing here in the chat. Some of you might be thinking, this sounds great, but where do I even start? And that's where our comprehensive ambassador toolkit comes in. We've created everything you need to hit the ground running. You'll receive a complete professionally designed slide deck covering AI detection training, real educator case studies from teachers already using these tools successfully, media literacy in the age of AI, and plenty of additional resources for your colleagues. They've even included GPT-Zero demo videos to make your presentations more relevant and informative. They also provide template emails to help you invite colleagues to your webinars and follow up afterwards. So you don't even have to write the you don't even have to write the emails. You just have to have the email addresses. And if you want to see exactly what a successful session looks like, they also have included a couple of example recordings from current ambassadors who are already making an impact on their community. So what's in it for you? Because this program is designed to be as rewarding for ambassadors as it is for the teachers who attend your workshop, first, you'll receive GPT-Zero Premium for life. That's $288 annual value, completely free for as long as you're an active ambassador. But beyond the financial benefits, you'll gain something even more valuable, which is something that Edward has already alluded to. You'll have access to our exclusive ambassador community. So folks like who are present today, people like Brian, who's been already talking about being an ambassador. And this community is actually where the real magic happens. You'll exchange ideas about AI usage and policies with other educators from across the country, and you'll get direct access to the GPT-Zero pedagogy team. You'll also earn the designation of GPT-Zero Licensed AI Educator, a credential that recognizes your expertise and leadership in this critical area. As the technology evolves, you'll have first access to all new GPT-Zero product launches, including what we've just been seeing today, keeping you at the forefront of educational AI tools. So if you're interested in learning more, I would recommend grab your camera really quick, get that QR code, because I've been informed that that the copy paste doesn't work in the chat in Zoom. So I can share the link, but it's not going to do you much good. So do take a picture of this if you can and jump over to that site. It's a very simple form to fill out. You can also reach out to GPT-Zero with any questions. And they'll help out. The other place you can find information is gptzero.me/educators. And if you go to that site, that page, then and you scroll about halfway down, you'll see a little bar that says about the ambassador program and a link to click on that to join. Like I said, very, very simple form to fill out. There are, Edward, how many people did you say we have already in the program?
Yeah, we have 570 ambassadors too, and we've had nearly 100 folks, already hosted their first kind of training session to their community of teachers, which is really incredible. Had some quick questions on, is there a prerequisite for initial seminar before acceptance? My file is already packed. What's the time commitment as well too? I would say kind of the major commitment is having folks that are excited about AI and education and willing to share resources with their community. So being able to host, yeah, a session to your own community that kind of GPT-Zero will give resources for as well to send a selfie to us after and then chat in the group chat. So it's not a very intensive commitment in that sense, but it's kind of a great start. And we've already had out of kind of the 500 folks in that chat and program that the community team and Sean and everybody is chatting with. Already over 100 have hosted their first one. And it's only the first couple weeks of the semester, so we're really excited for more folks to kind of share with their community how AI is used and be not just a learner in these webinars, but also a teacher there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that one of the things that I want to point out too is as a former educator, I was in education for 23 years. I find GPT-Zero to be one of the most pedagogically sound tools out there because of the emphasis, and this was actually a question that came up at some point in the chat, the emphasis not on surveillance and policing, but rather on actually creating a tool that helps students and teachers act cooperatively together around AI and in writing. That's always been the emphasis for GPT-Zero. And so I think that the trainings that people are involved in with the ambassador program also sort of conveys that out to other teachers. This is not just a surveillance tool. This is not just for that. You actually get the opportunity to talk to teachers about teaching and how this works to support good teaching and learning. There was a question actually I want to bring up really quickly. We only have 2 minutes, so this is just a real quick question, Edward, from Julie. Julie, thank you, by the way, for all your participation. You've asked some really good questions. Um, has your company put together a training for teachers to share with students about how to appropriately use GPT-Zero? Obviously, this is the biggest challenge, right? Because if you're incorporating GPT-Zero into the classroom, sometimes students might use it as a way around. And so is there a way to, how can teachers really integrate this well into their classroom? Do you have any resources along those lines that are available for teachers?
Yeah, that's such a great question, Lee. I will share one as well too. We recently, this was from now the Zero ambassador, but previously a writing teacher we talked to who shifted from just using the GB Zero checking tools themselves to actually having their students use it throughout their writing process. And specifically on Eddie's syllabus, just put it in the chat. He had now an 80-20% rule for using AI in the classroom, where you're allowed this 20% of AI, whether it's in the writing process report on Google Docs or whether full parts, and you're allowed AI in his writing classroom, which is a college first year writing course. You're allowed AI to help your outline process, similar to what we showed initially, but you're not allowed more than kind of this 20%, and 80% has to be your own edits, your own words, your own parts, whether it was the AI detection results and also whether it was kind of the process of writing. So I actually found that as a really compelling one possible solution. We'd be really interested hearing from teachers if you have other compelling solutions on, introducing GPTZero or kind of these related tools while students AI or some what you just saw today. If any folks are interested in, testing out the product I showed today, maybe the best way to do it is, Sean, if you see any in the group chat, you can send to me right now, or anybody just says yes in this Zoom call. And if you submit the ambassador form, feel free to add that as a note. But I think the easiest way is that if folks are interested, some folks already typed that, they can just put that in the chat and we'll reach out or send you kind of the version before it launches. And then we'll put out together more examples of this in addition to the one that I shared there.
That's great. Fantastic. Yeah. And just one last word here as we start to go. One of the things that you can count on with GPT-Zero is they are actually listening to educators. They are actually talking to educators. They are actually interested in what's going on in your classroom and want to help. So this isn't just like blowing smoke. It's it's really real. So please do feel free to reach out to folks at GPT-Zero and request other things and you know, training and all that kind of thing if that's what you're looking for. So thank you, Edward, for a great presentation today. I know folks really appreciated everything that you shared. As we close, just a couple of quick notes for everybody. When the webinar closes, when you close this window, a very short survey will pop up in your browser window. Please do take a minute or two to complete that survey because your feedback does mean a lot. These are webinars are things that GPT-Zero wants to continue to offer, and so when we get your feedback, we know really what we need to be doing. And as a reminder, a link to the recording will be sent out by email very soon. For those of you who didn't receive the recording from last week, it is available on GPT-Zero's YouTube channel now, but it will also be included in an email going out very soon. So thank you everybody for attending today's office hours.
There's going to be
Yep,
a certificate of completion similar to the six-part series.
yep, absolutely. Yes, 100%. So thank you everybody. I wish you the very best in the coming school year and stay in touch.
Likewise. It's a pleasure. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.